What is going on, guys? I hope you're having a wonderful beginning of the year, and what better way to start the year with a deck profile. And this deck profile is actually not one of my decks, is my friend's deck. Since the Super pre-release, he has been playing Crocodile, and I think Crocodile is a very underrated leader. It hasn't performed as well as other decks in bigger tournaments, but I do believe that my friend has a pretty decent and even pretty good deck profile. So if you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe, leave a like if you're also a fan of the leader Crocodile. I do believe we have to have more crocodiles out there just to diversify the game, because there's a lot of red and green. So let's give some love to Crocodile, and leave in the comments below what is your favorite card to play with the leader Crocodile. Let me know what's your tech card or what's a must have in a Crocodile deck. And without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so to begin the deck profile, in the one cost we have two Peronas. He's limiting this to two Peronas because there are other cards that he would like to play, and as we know, Perona 1 cost, 2000 attack and 1000 counter. On play, you look at the top 5 and you rearrange them however you want, either at the top or at the bottom of your deck. So this is a very good card to play in your first turn. First turn Perona, stack your deck, and even if Crocodile does not take full advantage of this card, as well as Doflamingo, still a pretty useful card. And I believe this is why you have it at 2, just for when you have it, because stacking your deck, it is good, but it is not the primary purpose of the deck. And after that, for the other 1 cost, we have Law. The Law blocker, 1 cost, 1000 attack, and is a blocker. Runs 3 of them. I know he's debating whether to increase it to 4 or keep it at 3. This is the list that we are running, and so far it's pretty decent. And also, you'll see later on, you have a card to be able to take it back and play it in the field. So that's why you can afford to have only 3. Now, for the 2 cost, we have Mr. 3. So Mr. 3, 2 cost for 3000 attack, 1000 counter. On play, if your leader is about works, you can select one of your opponent's character with a cost of 4 or less, and the selected character cannot attack until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that means when you play this, targeted character cannot attack. So this is especially good if your opponent has Robin, Okiku, or even like a Zoro, or any annoying card that you cannot get rid of, or you cannot bring back with the ability, or with other cards like Sables, Doflamingo, Mihawk. So this is like a good buffer to be able to, just for 2 cost, instead of using your forward downs of your ability or Sabs or the other ones that I mentioned, for 2, boom, you freeze one of your opponent's character that can potentially damage your board. So this is why he runs 2 of them. It has come clutch in a few of his games, so I do believe this is good to have. The next 2 cost is Alvida. Alvida for 2 cost, 3000 attack, and that's one of your 2000 counters. So for 1 down, when attacking, you may trash a card from your hand, return one of your opponent's character with a cost of 3 or less to the opponent's hand. So this is primarily used for the 2k counter. be honest here, this is why we use it. But it's still a very useful card to just throw there and have your opponent worried about the ability, because you can bounce back a blocker very easily. So for the 2k counters. So yeah, that's it for this card. Next card is the Doflamingo blocker. For 3 cost, 4000 attack, 1000 counter, a blocker. On play effect, look at the 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them however you want, either on the top of the deck or you put them at the bottom of your deck. So this is very good blocker, and the same way as Perona, you can use that card to stack your deck. You can leave it at 3. That's the number he is comfortable with. I know a lot of lists put 4 for consistency, but because you already have Perona, you already have Doflamingo, and you have a card to bring this back that we'll see along the deck list, 3 is comfortable and is an additional blocker. Very good. Now, something that he really enjoys is the 2 Jinbes. 4 cost, 2000 attack, not very good stat, but the ability is pretty good. So on play effect, place 1 character that with a cost of 3 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck, and it has a trigger. So this is very similar to Who's Who for the purple deck, but you don't lose a Dawn on your field. So that is why it is at 4 cost. So this is mainly there just to get rid of a annoying blocker or any character that has an annoying ability, but you don't necessarily want to play it right away. You want to keep it just in case you can go for a bigger KO of a character, or just like I said, an ability like Robin, to get rid of Robin on the field, to get rid of Okiku on the field, and all the little blockers. That's a very good card, and if you get it on trigger, even better. Now for the 4 cost, we have Gecko Moria, and this is a card for 4 cost, 5000 attack and 1000 counter, that will allow you to get your 7 Warlords of the Sea card from the graveyard or from the trash to your hand. So on play effect, you can add 1 7 Warlord or Trailer Park Pirates type character with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your trash to the hand. So that's why we have the flexibility, because of this card, to lower the count of Law and Doflamingo blockers, and the other like 7 Warlord of the Sea. So very good card, and it is a counter. So if you play it, you get your blocker back down, and then you can leave the rest to counter or to play them to get 4 blockers. So very good card. The next 4 cost is of course Mihawk. Mihawk for 4 and 5000 attack and a counter of 2000. For 1 down, when attacking, you draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hand. So this is mostly used for the 2k counter, but the ability can be good if you want to recycle through your deck, especially if you have Perona, or if you've played Perona or Doflamingo, you can play the Mihawk, and then the next turn you can attack and get your cards from the top of the deck. So that's requires a little bit more thinking and planning for the future turns, but it can be done. So it is good to have the flexibility of using this card and not only like keeping it for the 2k counter. So Mihawk, pretty good card. Now the next card is 4 Kumas. Kuma for 4 cost, 5000 attack and 1000 counter, is a blocker, and this is the blocker that on KO you can play 1 Pacifista with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. So this is very good on KO effect. against all the annoying removals in every deck, in every color, right? Because you have purple, you have the 6 cost king, you have the 9 cost Kaido, and you have the 10 cost Kaido that can just wipe your board. But if you have this, they have to think a little bit more before destroying it, because behind those 4 Kumas you have 4 Pacifistas. So here you have the Pacifistas from the starter deck, 4 cost and 6,000 attack and 1,000 counter, and this is the vanilla version. So if they want to remove your Kuma, they have to be careful because Pacifista is right behind, and with 6,000 attack, that's a pretty big character to have to deal with. So this is why this Kuma is very powerful, and that at least makes your opponent think twice before removing it, because yeah, you have Bartholomew, you have Jet Pistol, you have the King, the Kaido, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing a lot of cards that can KO characters. But yeah, those are the main ones, and yeah, like, are you really gonna be wasting them on this Kuma just to get a Pacifista on the field? I don't think so, or well, at least it's gonna be a gamble for your opponent. So pretty good. And this is one of the interesting cards that he plays. It's the Crocodile blocker from the starter deck. So it's a 5 cost for 6,000 attack blocker, and then you, for 1 Dawn on block, you can place 1 character with the cost of 2 or less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So this is mainly played for the aggro decks, right? Because you know, like, eventually they'll have like the 1-2 cost that are gonna be power up with the Zoro leader, and like you'll have that, so you'll block with the Crocodile, and then you can remove the other attacker. I think the name of the card is this Sunny something, like the little lion that for 1 cost can do a lot of damage with Zoro. And yeah, so this card is there to reduce the threats for the aggro decks, but it's also there against green to be able to remove the little blockers so that you can deal with the 8 cost kid, because this deck is for this deck is very difficult to deal with the 8 cost kid, because you don't have anything that can return a 8 cost card to the end or to the bottom of the deck. So this is just to make everything easier to deal with for the 8 cost Kaido. So I think it's a pretty good addition to the deck, and it has served him pretty well. Next we have Vergo. Not much to say about Vergo. 5 cost, 7k, 1000 counter. Just a big vanilla that if you get it on turn 3, it's very hard to deal with. So yeah, just there for the 7000 attack. Next we have the 7 cost Crocodile. For 7 cost, 7000 attack and 1000 counter, it has the ability to banish the cards from their life, which is pretty good. But it also, for 1 Dawn, gives your blue events -1. So this deck, as we know, lacks a lot of big hitters or like finishing characters, and this is one that is very good because of the banish ability. You don't have to worry about your opponent having additional cards from the life cards, so this is pretty useful. And if you put it on, which you'll most likely put, since you'll try to attack for like 7 or well, for 8 or 9, just to like force him to use a lot of more counters, so your events will benefit from that. And then the other one, the 7 cost, we have Doflamingo. The 7 cost Doflamingo from the starter for 7 cost, 7000 attack, no counter. On play effect, you can return 1 character of 7 or less cost to the owner's hand. I don't have to tell you why this card is so good. Not only is it a 7/7, which is numbers that are hard to deal with, but you have a big blocker, you have your law blocker, your queen. Boom, please put it back to your hand. So for law, it's a little bit tricky because it has a very good on play effect, but still it can be very useful if you go for clearing the board. So reduce the amount of blockers that it has so you can target whatever is rested. So that's pretty good. And then for the final character, we have of course 3 Mihawk. 9 cost and 9000 attack and no counter, but the on-play effect is pretty good. So you can place one character with a cost of 7 or less from the field to the bottom of the owner's deck. So this is what I mean. Like so far we've seen everything that can deal with 7 or less, but you cannot deal with 8 or more. So that's why he puts the starter deck Crocodile, just to reduce the amount of blockers on the field so he can swing big on the 8 cost Kaido. And this one, I don't have, like, there's nothing much to say. Pretty sick ability. You use it pretty, like, very similar to the Doflamingo that we just saw, but it has 9000 attack. So that's one of your late game finishers. And as for the events, you have 2 overheat counters. For 2 cost, you gain 4000 attack and you can return a 3 or lower cost to the owner's hand. So this is very good again to be able to counter and remove a blocker from the field, so that next turn you can go for game or attack the field a lot easier. And also late game, like if you like need to bounce one just to survive and give you an extra turn, this is why overheat is very good. Then the next one is of course Love Mellow. You put that at 2 cost counter and you get 4000 attack, and if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, you draw 1 card. So this is a very good combo. Like if you've played the Perona or Doflamingo and you have little 3 or less cards in your hand, you play Love Mellow to be able to draw an extra card that you can use immediately for your counters. So this is pretty good. And the last event, we have Sables. So for 4 cost, return 1 character that cost 7 or less to the owner's hand, and the crazy thing, you can play it as a trigger. So that's why we have 3, and it combos very well with the ability of Crocodile. For 4 dons that you return to your don deck, you can remove a 5 or less from the field to the owner's hand. So you play Sab to get rid of 7 lore, and then you play the ability so you can return 2 characters to the hand which cost 7 or less or 5 or less. So that's really insane. So next turn your opponent is going to have to make a lot of decisions. So that's it for the deck profile for Crocodile. Like I haven't seen a lot of Crocodile decks out there, so that's why I wanted to post a good list, or what I think is a good list. He's been doing pretty good in the local tournament, so yeah, so that's it for the Crocodile deck profile. So if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe, leave a like if you're also a fan of Crocodile and you want to see more underrated deck profiles, and leave a comment below to let me know which deck profile would you like to see next. And I'm lucky enough to be able to build pretty much all the decks out there, so make sure you leave which deck you want to see. And that's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.